सच्चं पहीनन्ति मे भिक्खवे उप्पे अननुस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्कुम् उदपादि ज्ञानं उद.
Tirvan Saranai. Good evening, Dhamma friends. We are going to begin this evening Sutta study class. Today is Saturday, the last day of the month of April 2020. We are going to begin a new month. It is called Visakha month according to Buddhist tradition. The month of May is recognized the importance of the Buddha's life as he was born and also attained to enlightenment, and the final passing away into parinirvana took place in the month of May. So we are nearing to that month, which is the month we, of course, think about the Buddha and the Dhamma and Sangha extensively for developing Punya and Kusala. So we are going to do this Sutta study class before the Visakha month, the month that the Buddha was born and enlightened and also passing away. With such memories and also good thoughts in mind about the Buddha, let's begin this evening Sutta studies. I'm joining with you from Columbus, Ohio in the United States, and I know many of you joined with the Sutta study class from Canada, and there would be some people who watch this Sutta study class later on through YouTube from different part of the world. So friends, let me welcome you with wholesome thought as we have been discussing the suttas, particularly the suttas that explain the deep Dhamma. I hope this session also will help you understand the deep Dhamma. Since we have been doing this for a long time, I know many of you understand the Dhamma, especially the basic concept of the Buddha based on the suttas, and today's sutta is a new one. And before we go into the new sutta, let me worship the holy feet of the Lord Buddha on behalf of you and everyone by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times in Pali and in English. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Friends, the sutta we selected for today's discussion is called Anicca Sanya Sutta. This is recorded in Samyutta Nikaya, section number 3, and the sutta number, the main section where the sutta is 22 and the sutta number is 102. If you do not know the number of the sutta, it's fine, but particularly you have to know the name of the sutta so that you can find it in the internet. So friends, Anicca Sanya. I think these two words are very familiar to many of you, since we have discussed these two concepts separately and together in discourses. The Girimananda Sutta is one of the famous discourses where we talk about Anicca and also Sanya. And then Sanya is quite familiar because it is one of the aggregates of the 5 aggregates. So that I'm pretty sure that you know the meaning of Anicca and also Sanya. However, due to the depth of these terms, sometimes we mix up with certain things, so it is beneficial for us to explain it over and over so that our mind can go to deeper aspect of this concept and also the Dhamma. One thing is very clear: if you understand these two concepts very well, anicca and also sanya, you may be able to cover many things in the wholesome Dhamma. So anicca, the very translation that those translators from Pali to English use is impermanence. We can call it anicca also. Anicca has become English term now since it is being used by the native English speakers. And so uncertainty. And then there are other words that I cannot remember now, but these are a couple of words that we use mainly for understanding the very Pali word anicca. Then what we have here is the perception about anicca. Perception, the very Pali word is sanya, or the verb of sanya is sanjanane, perceive. You perceive something. So the way we perceive about anicca is very important in understanding the reality of life. So here we talk about perception of impermanence. In other words, what the perception is a kind of understanding. When we talk about the etymology of panya, we of course take the support of vinyana and sanya to understand what panya is. The vinyana is the sensory understanding, or vinyana is the understanding about certain things in a mundane sense. For example, when I see through the window, I see a red color car and another house, and some people are walking over there. So just getting this information into my mind through senses is called vinyana. Just labeling, noticing. And sanya, whatever vinyana is giving, is modified by the color, by the shape, and also the distance wise, and something like that. Then when we comes to panya, help with the support of vinyana and sanya, we are going to know what exactly happening physically and mentally over this seeing through window. And in addition, I understand what these people made of, and what this window made of, and what could happen to my mind if I take this information, and so on. You have a very clear perspectives on mind and body with regard to seeing, hearing, tasting. That's called panya in a short form. So sanya is therefore a form of knowledge, form of understanding. So I just want to explain these two terms first before we go into the discourse. This discourse is really important. Why? Many reasons are there for that. This sutta explains one of the fundamental qualities we all should understand with regard to the Noble Eightfold Path and the 37 factors of enlightenment. Anicca is not recorded as a quality to develop. There is nothing to develop with anicca. What we need to develop is the quality to understand anicca. For example, sati, mindfulness, samma ditti, right understanding, right effort, samma vayama, then samma samadhi, right concentration. These are the qualities to be developed to see anicca. So anicca is a reality. Anicca is a characteristic of us, of everything out of us. So that there is nothing for us to develop with anicca, but the mind should be developed with those mentioned qualities to be able to see the quality of anicca of everything. With regard to five aggregates, what are the five aggregates? Form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vinyana. With regard to these five, we have to understand anicca on them. In other words, we may be seeing the anicca or the uncertainty or impermanence of fleeting nature of all these things by our normal understanding. Buddha did not come to this world just to explain, monks, see the leaves of the trees, they are going to fall. And look at the sky, the cloud now is full of in the sky, and they are going to go away. Buddha's duty is not that. Buddha's duty is to explain the five aggregates as they are, as the focal of our understanding, and direct us to say the impermanence or fleeting nature of five aggregates. So that is the very important thing to understand. So, so this sutta is very significant with regard to understanding the impermanent nature of five aggregates. But we do not find the whole teaching of five aggregates here. But that is what is in this teaching, in this with regard to impermanence. Then this sutta is again important because the emphasis on anicca by the Buddha is very important for us. Emphasis is given with type of similes. Let me tell you that in short. Here we find 10, how many similes? We find, yes, 10 parables. These 10 parables explain the nature of anicca, or these 10 parables direct us to understand the anicca or the impermanence of five aggregates. So the whole structure of the discourse is really important. I think I send you the link of the sutta. So I hope you had time to look at it. If you did not read, it's fine, because it's a relatively short sutta. We can finish reading of the discourse at once with one breath. So there are other significant things, because if you understand anicca very well, you don't find hard time to understand dukkha as it is. And if you understand both anicca and dukkha together, so you see anatta in experience. So these three characteristics of everything should be understood by the disciple in order to reach to nirvanic state. On the other hand, on the other side of the coin, we develop the Noble Eightfold Path. Suppose we would say that we are trying our best to understand anicca, dukkha, anatta with regard to five aggregates. So need to have those wholesome qualities in us present, just to see the subtle nature of anicca or changing, and then the subtle nature of dukkha and also anatta. So when you say that I try my best to understand three characteristics of conditioned things, sankara, at the same time, you have been conditioning your mind with the noble qualities. So that's happened simultaneously. So friends, let's get into the discourse so that we can understand the content of the discourse with a special emphasis on different places of the discourse. At Savatthi, Buddha delivered this discourse. How did the Buddha start the discourse? Because when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust. It eliminates all lust for existence. It eliminates all ignorance. It uproots all conceit I am. So Buddha is very clear. The Pali Sutta says like this, Anicca Sanya Bhikkave Bhavita Bahulikata Sabbang Kamaragang Paryaditi Sabbang Ruparagang Paryaditi Sabbang Bhavaragang Paryaditi Sabbang Avijjang Paryaditi sabbang asmimanang samuhanati. So when you practice the perception of impermanence, as the Buddha explained in discourses, you are going to have 5 important results. What are these 5 important results? You are going to eliminate or destroy the sensual lust, the desire for sensual pleasures, kama raga. And you are going to eliminate the desire for form, desire for form. It is called here, eliminate all lust for existence. And then eliminates desire for existence, all kinds of existence, bhavarag, and desire for ignorance. Actually, sabbang avijjang parya, all kinds of ignorant state are eliminated when you practice the theory of impermanence as it is. And finally, with the concluded the statement by saying that when you practice the perception of impermanence, you can eliminate the notion called I am, me, and so on. So isn't this what the Buddha expects from the teaching? Isn't this what we expect from practicing Satipatthana, the Noble Eightfold Path, and other factors of enlightenment? Yes, this is what we want. If we can eliminate the desire for sensual pleasures, as far as you understand, you have, of course, many problems. Many of those problems in mundane world come to an effect because of sensual pleasures. If we are to stop sensual pleasures, it means we have wisdom. It means we do not crave for, existing in a so-called sophisticated world mentally, psychologically, and physically. And we are, of course, not cultivating any sort of desire for, I would say, psychological state, rupa. So isn't that nice? Yes, what we are trying to do in the Dhamma and discipline is this aspect. So practicing anicca sanya is the solution. Many people ask from us the question, how Bhante do we practice Dhamma in order to attain enlightenment in this very life? This is the way you attain to enlightenment in this very life. Then people could ask, Bhante, have you attained to enlightenment? So it's a personal, the questions for personal experience. And I would say to them that I am so satisfied about my practice. I do not have any problem whatsoever that many people face in today's life because of my practice on anicca, because of my understanding on anicca, on my body and myself, and particularly 5 aggregates of clinging that I associate with. So friends, we have to make sure whether we have understood this element of Dhamma enough so that we could, put a end note to our craving, to our desires, to our ignorance. For that, we have to understand what kama raga, what rupa raga, what bhava raga, what avidya, what is asmiman. We have to understand them because we need to find them in us. Suppose if we do not have food, how can we eat? So first of all, we should have enough food to kill the hunger. So hunger or thirsty are 2 diseases that everybody, even the Buddhas, has until they attain the final parinirvana. So here we have to have some food to end it. Like that, we need to understand what kind of akusala, what kind of problems we have in our mind. If you know them, then you find the solution, particular solution for them. For example, anger is really negative. Anger is not giving us anything at all in the long run of this life. So what exactly the medicine for anger. the remedy for anger. So like the loving kindness practice, the benevolence, the metta practice is the direct antidote for anger. So friends, likewise, we should be able to know what exactly anicca sanya, the practicing of anicca sanya bring to us, and what we are doing with that, and what kind of akusala is going to eliminate from this practice. And it is very clear here in the sutta, you are going to destroy very powerful, very disturbing, unwholesome state. According to the sutta, they are sensual lust or sensual pleasures, and then lust for form or desire for form, and then lust for existence, and the ignorance, and the asmimana, what we call I am, the conceit I am. So these are the 5 things you can easily put out when you practice perception of impermanence. This sounds like this practice of anicca sanya is giving us the full enlightenment. Because if you destroy sensual pleasures and desire for form and desire for existence and ignorance, and also I am, there is nothing left in your mind. You have eradicated all kinds of sanyojan, all kinds of asava, all kinds of akusala mula there with this elimination, so that this is the direct path for full enlightenment. However, I would add here that you could attain Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami states also by doing that. It means to me that suppose you practice anicca sanya into 50% out of 100, sorry, 25% out of 100, then you are in the Sotapanna level. And if you practice the same thing to 50%, you are in the middle of it, that means Sakadagami. And if you practice them 70% of them, so you are in Anagami. So practicing the perception of impermanence, anicca sanya, by every means you are in full enlightenment. So that is very important. So Buddha said here, these ways of results, or the number of 5 results of practicing perception of impermanence. In Girimananda Sutta, or in various other suttas from Majjhima Nikaya and Digha Nikaya and other Nikayas, you get a lot of metaphors, similes, just to understand anicca. Without practicing anicca, you are not going to understand that this world is such. The total opposite of anicca is nicca sanya. So when you say that I am created by somebody, and so we are, after death we would be somebody that the creator likes. So we accept the fact that we die here and the same person is going to be there, which is not right according to the anicca theory. And if you look at our perception or feeling, so at the beginning of the sutta discussion, for example, I felt heat over here, but it's a feeling. It's a way to know your head and all these, the body and contact, and then eye consciousness. Everything happens for me to know that there is something warm feeling over here. Now it's gone. That feeling is gone. Earlier it was here, somewhere over here, but now it's gone. Actually, I didn't have such a thing, but I took that example just to say how impermanence, the unpleasant feeling over here. For example, you have neck pain. Sometimes if you slept to one side, you wake up with the neck pain. But after 2 days or a couple of hours, that pain is gone due to your effort of treating your neck. or automatically it could go. So unpleasant feeling is neutral. And then what I see through window over here, now I see a bird is flying, a dog is running, and now after I took my eyes from there, I don't see that anymore, but still the dog is running. So sight or seeing is impermanent. And suppose I drink a glass of water and I feel the taste of salt in it. So after drinking that water, I don't feel it anymore. So the taste is impermanent. So friends, it's easy for us to understand that anything come from six senses, is impermanent. What come from six senses created five aggregates in our mind. They are all mental states, so they are impermanent. So therefore, the craving we developed over these form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness could be an illusion. That's why we call it ignorant. And the desire for them and trying to keep them in our control is also not happening, because they arise due to causes and conditions, and they pass away when the causes and condition cannot live longer anymore. So everything is sankhara according to the Buddha's term, and all sankharas are anicca. And having this understanding is called perception of anicca. Having understood that I is also a collection of five aggregates, make sure that you understand the physical and mental body as it is, so that when you live on daily basis, you are not going to create any desire for these five aggregates, because you know that they are not going to stay with you. The feeling we had yesterday has gone now. Even 1 hour ago, we might we had some other feeling and experiences. They are gone. So like that, we need to understand the impermanence of five aggregates, not those visible, audible, edible things. Of course, we know they are impermanence, but what we understand at the end, the mind, the five aggregates are in the mind. And when we understand the impermanence of our mind and thoughts in mind, we have understood already the impermanence of five aggregates. And keeping that understanding always is called the perception of impermanence. Let me read the discourse, because having said that the perception of impermanence and its continuous cultivation or develop make you eliminate the Kamaraga, Bhavaraga, Ruparaga, Avidya, Man, and so on. Buddha is now giving 10 parables to understand what the statement means. Sometimes, friends, Buddha gave similes to make the point very clear for ordinary people. For example, when the Buddha was passing by a paddy field, the man is having a lot of expectation in his mind while he is plowing, while he is clearing the ground. So Buddha foresees that this man is going to suffer a lot with this attachment, so that I would help him. So Buddha pass by that place every day and make a friendship. And then when the farmer grew the paddy, and he is going to actually get the benefit from it. All the crops is supposed to be collected soon, and the night there was a thunder rain, and the whole crops was gone. This man came to the field and cried a lot, and he thought that how could I fulfill my aspiration? The Buddha, my friend, has been passing this place and he always talked to me. So I thought of giving him some, milk rice out of the first portion of the crops, and I wanted to help him for his noble service. How could I do that now. So he's crying, saying that. Then Buddha came to him and said that this is what happened to everybody in this life. Everything is impermanent. So the paddy you grow were only seed before, and you made the ground, the paddy field, and then you sow them, and now you help the paddy to grow with fertilizer and water. And they were not just one unit, they were coming to this stage by following some stages. And the rain is also a natural thing in this universe, so that this thing happened because of the theory of impermanence attached to anything and everything that come to this world. So Buddha consoled him and explained the deep Dhamma. Not only this paddy, we all die one day. No matter how strong we are, no matter how powerful we are, how famous we are, we all have to die. All the faculties of our life are going to erase from its existence. So Buddha wanted this man to understand the perception of impermanence, so that he spent more than 5-6 months to make this man sense on anicca. So sometimes Buddha spent such a long time for just one person to understand anicca. So friends, so that so Buddha used some parables and similes, analogies, so short stories, real life stories, just to make the point, just because the people, the listeners understand them. Sometimes Buddha did not use them because people, the listeners, understand the point directly. For example, those very high, intelligent disciples like Venerable Sariputta, Dharacirya, Pukkusati, he did not go to explain the Dhamma with similes and parables, because they are very powerful quality disciples. The Buddha knew about that. So here, I'm not saying that these parables are unimportant for wise people. People who understand Dhamma should also appreciate this kind of things. But what I'm saying is that this is really important. The similes explain the concept very well. Let me read. Just as in the autumn, ploughman flying with a great plowshare cuts through all the rootless as a plough, so too, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust and also lust for existence and lust for form, and then all kinds of ignorance, and also the conceit I am. So just like the man, plow in the field and cut all the roots of weeds, so too the perception of impermanence, when you develop and cultivate, there are two important words. Bhavita, the Pali word is Pali word the Buddha used is Bhavita Bahulikata. Bhavita means you are now getting into it, you are using it. Bahulikata, not at once, regularly, over and over. You continue to have that thought in mind. Sorry. So Bhavita means cultivate, Bahulikata means developed, over and over. Sometimes people think that, okay, we understand anicca very well. We know what the Buddha said. That's, friends, theoretical understanding. Sometimes those friends who understand anicca through experience also might say the same thing. Okay, we understand anicca. There is no measurement for us to know what these people level of understanding on anicca. But it's up to you to decide what you can understand. Sometimes we read suttas and books and we participate in discussion. We know what anicca means linguistically, theoretically. However, understanding anicca through experience is the highest, and if you have it, you are not disturbed by any normal average incident in the world. If something happened to you negatively, you accept it as a reality because you see the aggregates has been changed into a certain extent. So you kept your mind uh, out of the phi aggregate, so that the attachment to phi aggregate doesn't come to you as it is, because you see it as impermanent. So in the discussion part, we can raise many things on it if you have any. What I'm saying is that bhavita bahulikata should be understood. You understand the concept and you watch impermanence nature on feelings, perception, mind, mental state, physical body, not just once, over and over. However, I know the reality of our lives. We are fast facing people in this modern world. We should do many things in a given period of time, otherwise we cannot maintain this lifestyle in this fast facing world, so that we may not be able to be mindful on changes of the body and mind. So the mindfulness should be there to see the change, and the wisdom should be there to decide what kind of change is it, because sometimes change could happen from wholesome to unwholesomeness. All the changes I know are not that good. So wisdom is there to decide what change is beneficial and what change is unbeneficial. So then the effort should be there also. So when you when you understand or practice impermanence, theory of impermanence as a form of understanding, first bhavita, you use it for different feeling, perception, situation, and you are going to use it more and more because it becomes a practice for you. That's why we use two terms here, bhavita and bahulikata. So that's the first example. It's very clear. I'm from a village area in Sri Lanka, and my parents were farmers, and I encountered many such things in the paddy field, so that I really understand what this means by the Buddha. When you plow in the field, that plow blade is going underneath and the soil turned the other way around with the roots of the wheat, so that you take the roots of the wheat easily in the next cycle of making the ground, so that no weeds come out of the ground anymore. So the whatever crops you harvest there, they are going to give you the expected results. So like that, if you practice meditation on impermanence or perception of impermanence, it could lead you to uproot those unwholesome states. That's the simple word we can use. Uprooting lobha dvesha moha could happen faster and most efficient way when you practice this meditation, anicca sanya. We go to the second parable. Just as because a rush cutter would cut down a rush, grab it by the top and shake it down and shake it out and thumb it about. So too, when the perception of impermanence is cultivated and developed, it uproots all kinds of unwholesomeness, as said before. So rush cutter means in Pali it says this. Sayyatapi bhikkhave pabba jalayako pabbajang layitva. It means in the it's a kind of grass, long grass, that you use for different reasons, different purposes. And when the person cut those grass, let me see. Yeah, grass. You make it clear, because when you cut the grass, it's just like cutting those fatty field. You have to have the tight hold, and to make it clear you grass, then something on top of and the middle of it is gone, because when you make it like this, it's clear. Like that, when you practice the perception of impermanence, what happened to our mind, eliminating of those unwholesome state. So that's what the Buddha is going to point out here with the simile. Just as when the stalk of a bunch of mangoes has been cut, all the mangoes attached to the stalk follow along with it. So too, monks, when the perception of impermanence is being practiced, the that practice uproots all kind of defilement. So the simile is here. So you suppose you have a mango in one lot of mango in one stalk. So if you cut that stalk, all the mangoes fall down. So like that, if you cut the root cause of suffering, you are going to stop all kinds of reasons for suffering. Seeing anicca means seeing everything. Seeing anicca makes you aware what suffering is. When you practice anicca sanya, you understand not only anicca, you are easily going to understand the anatta also. So this is very key teaching of everything, right? So if you cut the mango branch, the branch where mango, hang on as a cluster, so all the mangoes are going to fall down, so that everything is on the ground. Likewise, if you practice perception of impermanence, and if you are going to break that chain, the theory of permanent nature in your mind. Sometimes we create this permanent. Suppose we do not want to change the weather at all. Suppose the department about weather is talking about the snowfall tomorrow. What do you think? Do you like it? No, you don't. Particularly with regard to normal understanding, you don't like it. But suddenly you remember weather is such that it's changed always, so that this is not impossible. It is possible, because this world is changing always. The sun, the moon, and the other planets, the whole universe is a example of impermanence, anicca, so that this could happen. And you are not going to create permanent ideas. Oh no, I don't want, I don't like. These are, of course, not representing anicca sanya. They are all representing the total opposite of anicca sanya. Right? You create an idea in mind and you try to keep it without change, makes you suffering, make you suffer a lot, make you stressful. Suppose you plan to have something perfect. Of course, we should do in this world. But when you plan to do something in a perfect way, should have another understanding on the other side of the mind, that there is something called anicca taught by the Buddha. So if things go wrong, I may not be worried too much, because they are not in my control. For example, you plan to go to a place in the city on time, let's say 10 a.m. But you left the house early, but certain things happen on the road, like traffic jam, accident, and the road closed, and you missed the road. So your GPS didn't work. So something I said could happen to you. So you are late to the place, so that you worry about. Just take the gist of the example. It is our mind create permanent ideas. It is our mind create the Nicca Sanya, nothing else. So if we have Nicca Sanya, the perception of certainty, we of course create Sukha Sanya also, and also Atta Sanya, because it is me who is going to have it. So it is me who does not want to change it. So creating Nitya Sanya, or perception of certainty, perception of permanency, create all kinds of negative emotion. That's why Buddha said, practice Anicca Sanya as much as you can, so that you are getting closer to Nirvana. You are getting closer to seeing everything as it is. So that is the third parable the Buddha used. And the fourth one is, just as all the rafters of a house with a peak roof lead to the roof peak, slope towards the roof peak, and converge upon the roof peak, and the roof peak is declared to be their chief. So too, when the perception of impermanence is cultivated and developed, it uproots all defiled state. So this is also a very clear example. All the rafts of a house, one corner, top corner of the raft of the house is on top wood on this vertical way, so that they are inclined towards this two ways, but the edge of those raft are together. So if you take that huge, very strong wood out of it, all the rafts are going to fall. You remember the Buddha's first statement after his enlightenment, Aneka jati sansarang sanda visang ani visang. In that stanza, what the Buddha talks about, I saw the man or the carpenter who make this house, and I saw how he developed it and what kind of materials he used, and I broke the house. The starting point of the breaking house is the raft, and also the other main wood or that rafts hold on to. So that's roof is gone. When the roof is gone, we are not telling it anymore a house, because it's all about four walls. The any structure become a house when there is a roof, well made. So something like that. When the rafters are not going to be there, when the main wood is taken out, so too, when you practice the perception of impermanence, all unwholesomeness are going to away from your mind. We go to the next simile. Just as among fragrant roots, black oris is declared to be their chief, so too, when the perception of impermanence is cultivated and developed, and it uproots all defiled state, as mentioned here. I haven't seen this root in my life, but perhaps you had it when you were in Sri Lanka. Some roots are very smelly, very tasty. We make tea out of it. We make medicine out of it. We make different kinds of curries, medicinal curries out of some roots. In the villages, we have it, but in cities you don't get it anymore. So they are very, very smelly, very fragrant. So black, what do you call, fragrant root, black oris. That's the root in English, and so that is the most fragrant roots out of all. So too, when you practice the perception of impermanence and cultivate it and develop them to the highest, so you are going to be like that root. I mean, the clarity of your mind is such. Out of all roots of plants, this particular black oris is the tastiest and most smelly. Fragrance is so much, so that your mind becomes very serene, very noble when you practice the perception of impermanence. Next parable is about sandalwood, red sandalwood. So they are very rare. And it is declared that the red sandalwood is the chief of all the sandals. You have white sandals, you have normal sandals, and yellow color, sandalwood, and red sandalwood. Out of each, out of all, red sandalwood is the main. Like that, out of all type of meditation, this meditation is the highest because it kills the sensual pleasures, uh, desire for form, and lust for existence, and ignorance, and non-self in one's mind. So if there is any meditation that everything provided, this is one of them, the one of the highest, anicca sanya. Just like the sandalwood is the highest in that regard, so too the meditation on impermanence, or the perception of impermanence, is relying as the highest meditation. Just as all pretty prince are the vessels of wheel turning monarch, and the wheel turning monarch is declared to be the chief, their chief. So too, when the perception of impermanence is developed, it becomes the chief, or very important, most important meditation that kills all kinds of unskillfulness. To understand the parable, the universal monarch, the emperor, is the main king of a region. There would be a regional king that hold one area under that emperor. So the emperor, or the universal monarch, is the highest. Likewise, practicing meditation on perception of impermanence is just like the emperor of each meditation. It's just like the universal boss, because it kills all kinds of unwholesomeness. Have you understood this, that the mindfulness, wisdom, and perseverance on seeing anicca would be much higher here? Because the way you look at five aggregates, and attachment to five aggregates should be very strong, because you need to see the subtle changes of form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness, so that you can stop clinging to aggregates. So the level of mindfulness and right understanding and persevering in the Noble Eightfold Path would be very subtle and deep. Otherwise, you don't break those akusala states, even though you see a type of impermanence on five aggregates and the clinging to them. So, universal monarch parable is such that there is the biggest one, and below him there are other kings. Like that, perception of impermanence is the highest of all kinds of similar practices. Next one, just as the radiance of all the stars does not amount to a 16th part of the radiance of the moon, and the radiance of the moon is declared to be their chief, so too, when the perception of impermanence is cultivated and developed, it uproots all unwholesome thought. So the simile is very clear. The moon, the full shiny moon, is cheaper for all the stars. If you go out and you see many stars, but they are not giving much light like the moon. So the moon is compared to the practice of perception of impermanence. Just like the moon on full moon day giving light to the entire world, the practice of perception of impermanence provide the clarity, the clear awareness, and it clears the darkness of our mind. So by that simile or the parable, also we understand the importance of the perception of impermanence. The next one is very important also. Just as in the autumn, when the sky is clear and cloudless. The sun, ascending in the sky, dispel all darkness from space as it shines and beams and radiates. So too, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust and other unwholesome state. So when the sun come out of, it is always out, but as the planet Earth goes around, there may be 12 hours that we do not see the sun. But when the sun, when the planet Earth, the cycle, so there is a point that we see the sunlight. With that, the darkness is gone everywhere. And if the sky is very clear without clouds, the sun rays come to the world without any barrier, so that the light is everywhere. For example, you go to a room after this sutta study without any light. So what you have in the room is full of darkness. How about if you find the switch and turn on? So the light is hanging on the middle of the room, and the whole room, just like on top of my head, whole room is illuminated. Whole room is illuminated. The light is everywhere. The darkness is gone. So when you practice and when we practice the perception of impermanence with regard to 5 aggregates of clinging, our mind is going to be shiny, bright, brilliant, like this room, which is not having any darkness because of the light. So friends, what a wonderful meditation is this. Perception of impermanence could be practiced in the sitting posture with the meditation subject. And it could also be practiced even now. You look at my screen, and perhaps you look at your own screen. Perhaps you look at other friends. Look at their eyes and look at their head, look at their body, and look at the computer. They are all seeing, they are all pictures for you. So if you practice theory of impermanence while listening, that's it. Right now you feel your body because of the clothes, because of your consciousness, and so forth. So all these sensations are just like bubbles in the water. They come and go. They are just like foam we create with the soap. They exist only for a short period of time. Every physical and mental phenomena are to end right after they arise. So we see certain things exist, but friends, they are our delusion and illusion. They are in a subtle way changing from moment to moment. So having said this, with the concluded, like this, bhikkhus, how is the perception of impermanence developed and cultivated so that it eliminates all sensual lust, lust for existence, ignorance, and conceit I? So now Buddha has come to the end, and also very important part. So if you practice the perception on impermanence, on what you practice, such is form, such its origin, such its passing away, such its feeling, such is the origin and also passing away, such is perception, such its origin, such its passing away. Such, such is mental formation, such is its origin and also passing away. And then last, the consciousness is understood as it is, and also the origin of it as well as passing. So when you practice perception of impermanence on 5 aggregates, you are going to know the whole yard of it, whole yard of 5 aggregates. Each and every single aggregates are well known to you, and their origin as well as passing away. Friends, let me say this. When we analyze ourselves from the bottom of the teachings of the Buddha, there is nothing but the 5 aggregates. Conventionally, we name the head, hands, legs, and so forth. They are all aggregates. Basically, form aggregate, the physical body belongs to the form aggregates, or the physical body is a part of Rupa. So at the end, you have only Rupa. What you see in front of you is the computer, maybe the window, door, or the kitchen, or wall, whatever. When you go out tomorrow morning, you see the towers and big building and the sky. They are all Rupa for you. So in this world, therefore, there is nothing but Rupa. And when we have Rupa in our mind created well, we are going to have perception, feeling, sankara, and consciousness. So at the end, you and me are nothing but the aggregates. The Buddhas and the Arahants have only 5 aggregates, but we and the average people, in other words, those who haven't understood the Dhamma up to the highest extent, have the 5 aggregates as well as clinging for them. So when you see the impermanence of them, you see the origin, the starting point of form, feeling, perception, and mental formation, and they are ending in a subtle way, so that you have completed your training on understanding the aggregate, so that you are able to stop attachment and all other craving attached to upadana. So nirvana is nothing but going to the peak of it. It means you do not have attachment to 5 aggregates, but you have 5 aggregates because you are still living as an arahant. So friends, that is what the Buddha said at last, and the monks who listened to it were very happy, because this sutta is marking a special place in the entire Tripitaka, because we see 10 parables about anicca sanya. So monks were satisfied, and I hope you are also happy by reading and listening to the Anicca Sanya Sutta from the Samyutta Nikaya. So now we have time to discuss any matters arising with regard to Sutta discussion, or any related things to the parables, or anything you wish to share with others. Now time is for now time is for our discussion. Anyone who is having any issue? So my suggestion is to make your practice stronger by having these things in mind. Oh, Buddha has reconfirmed the practice of perception of impermanence. So how nice this kind of discourse. So you are putting some effort to develop Shraddha, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, Panya, or the Noble Eightfold Path by listening to it over and over. Perhaps these suttas are very common to many people who understand the concept of anicca. Suppose you are going to do a research on the word anicca, so you see different primary sources, interpretation. So within couple of weeks you find these suttas under anicca, so that if you have been reading discourses for a certain period of time, you may of course know this particular sutta. So anyway, those who have read the discourse before and similar discourses before, or you listen to it for the first time today, we all need to think about one thing, that is seeing the impermanence in our day-to-day moments. When you speak, when you see, when you hear, just keep the theory of perception of impermanence into mind. Okay, this is only a sound, it's going to go away. Or this is a saying, this is a taste, this is a smell, right? Suppose you go to bathroom and and suppose you go to kitchen, you have a bad smell there. So instead of yielding anybody, just understand this is only a smell. with the air elements manifestation, it might go away. Or with the air freshener you use, it's gone. So that, friends, having the perception of impermanence in speaking, in action, in thinking, in other words, when you use your senses, that would the things the Buddha expected from us. If we have such a practice in this way, the enlightenment in this very life may not be that difficult. If you remember the Okkanti Samyutta of the Samyutta Nikaya, Buddha has given, as I remember, 12 ways of cutting off of craving. So one of the major thing over there in the Okkanti Samyutta is practicing anicca, right? So anicca, chakung bhikkave aniccang viparinami anyata bhavi. The same thing, the anicca sanya is being practiced there. So my eyes are impermanent, came to existence with causes and conditions. And when necessary conditions are not meeting with the eyes are going to experience decay and malfunction. So with regard to brain and the heart, sometimes you have heart problem, brain problems, and problem with the bones, problem with the liver. So people experience many illnesses. So if you understand this theory very well, based on Okkanti Samyutta of the Samyutta Nikaya, your mental suffering is gone over your sickness. I know personally many of those people who participate in the discourse have either one problem or couple of problems. They are all physical, but their mind is pure because they know that this is a reality. Today I am relatively young, but in couple of decades, so if my life is going in a normal way, in couple of decades I would be like you, who has diabetes, heart failures, and many other problems. So when we know this reality from experience, we are not going to worry about it. Ditta Dhamma results, I mean, the results that we can get right now is such that we would be very peaceful over certain things that many people may not be able to find peace and happiness. So I think in order to make your normal, average social life happy and content, just understand the impermanence on what you associate, whether they are human or material things, understand they are impermanent. So with the theory of perception of impermanence well grounded in your mind, you are not going to have too much expectation in your mind, because you ahead of doing something or thinking, you know what happened to this thing, what happened to that person, and so forth. So it doesn't deny you a happy life, but it makes you more happy and peaceful. So that, friends, my suggestion for you to strengthen your practice on the perception of impermanence, so that you may be doing very well in the noble teaching, what we call Dhamma and Vinaya. So if you do not have any questions or any regards, any concern, I might end today's sutta discussion, wishing you well-being and happiness. I think you don't have any concern. So friends, I joined with this sutta discussion today from Columbus, Ohio, in the United States, and you join from your home in the Canada and the US and also other part of the world. May you all be well, happy and peaceful wherever you are. Try to do things mindfully and use your wisdom with mindfulness at all, so that everything you do would be beneficial for you and everybody else. And recall yourself that everything is impermanent. That's what the Buddha said in the Anicca Sanya Sutta, so that you would be cultivating Sila, Samadhi and Panya as they are, and to reach Nirvana. By the power of wholesome thought I personally accumulate during this tour, and also good feelings and mental state you develop from your wholesome activities, come together and make all of us happy, healthy and peaceful. And whoever suffer from diseases around the world, may they be able to recover from from those illnesses, and those who are suffering from various shortage of food, medicine, back from Sri Lanka and elsewhere in the world, may they be free from suffering, and may the entire world be peaceful, happy, and relaxed. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.